So this is class 31. Wow. Of our series on faith and confidence.
Out of how many?
I don't know, I hope to finish within 60. This will be a multi-year course. Last time we did some very, very important things, which I felt we would not be amiss to do them again. And this time out of a translation. I did translate it this time, because I felt that after we had gone over it once, it was certainly possible to try and understand it better from what's written. So we were talking about the fact that there's a difference between the line as it extends into reality. And one way of thinking of this line of infinite light is that it is my line of life. It is how I conduct myself in the world. So as I enter reality, as my being enters reality, I have to start somewhere. So that point where I start, that's called absolute trust or absolute confidence. Obviously it's in God. It's that I have the power to make an impact on reality, which is what every person wants to do. So for a lot of people, that impact is translated into the lowest common denominator, which is just to be able to survive. Just to be able to live in a world that is, thankfully in our day and age, more cultural, more domesticated, more civilized. And within this context, to lead a life, to go through life. So to be able to do that, I need to have some measure of confidence. And self-confidence, which stems from confidence in God. So if a person is stuck at home and you don't know how to get them out, really what you need to do is you need to restart. You have to reboot this line. You have to start a new line. Sometimes that's the only option. But, like we learned last time, there is a difference between continuing and extending the current line that you're on. You could even reboot on what you're on already, in the direction that you're going already. You could reboot there, and still not have to call it the beginning of a new line, because the point of inception of a new line into reality, a new course that you set for yourself, that point is called absolute confidence. And as it would seem, it's dimensionless. Every point is no dimensions yet. So it can't yet rely on anything that you've built already. So somebody like an example of something like this, of a person rebooting in the middle of his life, entirely rebooting, just starting all over, is like Yaakov when he came to Eretz Yisrael. It says that he gave all the belongings that he had, he gave them away. All the money that he had, he gave away. And he started again. And he said, why am I starting again? Because the land of Israel is a whole new world. There's a very interesting thing that I saw from the Rebbe on Yud Shvat of Tafshim Lamed Hey, which is Yud Shvat of 1975. And he dedicated, it's available on video even though it was 1975, there's video of it. And he's talking about the founding fathers of the United States. And he said something phenomenal. He said, he was talking about teaching about trust in God. But his argument was that because the United States was founded by people who were escaping persecution in the old world, specifically I guess in England, the Puritans who came to Plymouth Rock, they founded, and the United States was founded, America was founded on the basis of trust in God. That's what he says. And trust in God means that I will be able to start something new here. It's not just faith in God. Faith in God they could have had in Europe. Because faith would have meant to be able to continue to survive under the persecution. But when they made the journey to America, basically they were saying, we want to build our own future. And that's confidence. That's not faith anymore. And so they got on the ships and they came to America with the feeling that we can start something new, a new line of confidence, of absolute trust in God. And so he says that's why it says on the dollar, in God we trust. Because that's what it was founded on. It wasn't people striking out like in South America, not really striking out, but just continuing what they had in Europe. They just wanted to get richer. So they came for the 3 G's, which is how I was taught history in America in the 80s. Gold, God, and glory. Gold being, of course, the most important. But God, what they meant by God was continuing the Catholic tradition that they had from Spain and Portugal. That was South America. But America, the United States, was founded on people who had a different vision, a different picture altogether in their heads about what life was about. It wasn't just about taking from somewhere else what there already was there, like taking from South America and bringing it back to Europe. They had no intention of going back to Europe because they had nothing to look forward to in Europe. So what they did was they built their whole lives in a new way, and even they called it New Jerusalem on the hill. That's what it was called, because those were their images. Those are tremendous images when you think about this. Here's a bunch of non-Jews who are very sincere, and they come to America and they say, we're not building it in order to become rich back in the old country. On the contrary, we don't want any connection with that anymore. We're striking out on our own. And by striking out on our own, we're putting our trust, our absolute trust in God, because there's nothing here. There's nothing we can start with. So you have to build a whole new world. And for them, realistically, it was a completely new world. There was very little that they took from Indian culture, although there are some people that say that the reason that American sounds the way it sounds, as opposed to British English, American English is a hybrid between the Indian languages and British English. There's a theory like that.
They learned a lot about survival from them.
And they learned from them, obviously, but
Food
it would be very interesting to find if they actually took some ideas from them, but I doubt that you'll find that. What you'll find is that they took new ideas from different places in the world. Maybe the most important one being the notion that every person is worthy of being represented, which is modern democracy as opposed to Greek democracy, which was only landowners get to be represented. It took time for this idea to completely work its way through American society, but in the end it caught on. And this was something that Jefferson, the famous slave owner, but he that's what he advocated. It took him himself time to understand what he was saying. But that was the principle. The principle was that every person has a soul, and therefore every person is entitled to have a vote, a say. So anyway, this is an example of having absolute trust. That you have nothing to build on. You can't, it's not hope anymore. There's no hope involved. Because hope means that I'm basing my future efforts on things that already exist, on vessels that I can already use.
So because they believe that people can change too. This is
right. They themselves change.
Right. Themselves.
If I can change, you can change. Famous quote from Rocky 3. Okay. So let's read it. On line 354. Absolute trust in God is the root of all passive confidence in the psyche. So the interesting thing is that in that place of absolute trust, you're not yet creating a vessel. You just have absolute trust. So this form of absolute trust, this inception point of confidence that I can build a world, is not yet active. There's an aspect to it which is still passive. In that sense, it becomes the source, strangely enough, of what later will be passive confidence, where I only believe that God will do as I want without my contribution. I don't have to contribute. It's going to happen because God wants things to be the way that I see them. This is a very, very powerful thing, that the essence of Yiddishkeit in the end is that God creates a human being to say, what should the world be like? That's what the human being was created for. Otherwise, God could have made it according to His plan. He says, no, I want you to be partners with me. And how do you become a partner with me? By telling me, what is it that I should do here? That's what a human being is. It's the part of Hashem who's planning how I want the world to look. I'm like His emissary on the ground. I'm here on the physical world. What should it work like? What should it be like? How should it function?
So we know this was from Abba, right?
Right.
However, Abram was always kind of told what to do by Hashem, or tested by Hashem.
Yeah. If you watched yesterday's class,
response.
yesterday's class was phenomenal. Rav
That you have on
Ginsburg's,
Facebook? Rabbi Ginsburg.
it's on YouTube now.
Okay.
It'll probably come out. We'll maybe even send it out in English because we translated it as it was going on. He said something that is said a lot in Chassidus, but he really, really worked on it and developed it yesterday, which is that all the tests that Avram went through were his own device.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He made them. He devised them.
Here's my answer.
And that's like saying, what does it mean that Hashem doesn't put you through a test that you can't succeed in? It's because you yourself are devising them. You yourself, to come to know yourself, have already devised the tests that you need in life. It's not something that's taken from
pushing
above.
your envelope.
Sorry?
Pushing your envelope.
Right. Except that you did this from a higher place in your soul
Yeah, this is
that is not conscious right now. But as you go through the test, you realize that this is exactly what you needed in order to move forward, in order to uncover your deeper recesses of your soul.
So, is this what it means, like putting on the big malchut? Like she went from passive confidence to...
Active confidence, right.
Yeah?
Well, it says that sometimes to withstand the test, I just have to withstand it. There's nothing I can contribute. And sometimes to withstand the test, I do have to contribute. That already depends on an inner sense, whether I'm able to do something or not.
But she was not going to do it. Mordechai.
But Mordechai here was the active confidence telling her, you have to make a stand. You have to do something. Because, says Mordechai, I am convinced, I have all the confidence. I wonder if convinced and confidence have some kind of connection. But I'm completely convinced that the Jewish people will be saved.
Oh.
If it's not through you, it will be through somebody
It
else.
sounds like Mordechai's concocting her tests for her.
So that's a good way of saying it. That if you take Esther and Mordechai as one soul,
Right.
so you're saying Mordechai is like the more conscious part of it. It's more conscious of itself,
Mordecai.
and it's saying he's more conscious of himself.
Mordecai. More conscious.
Oh, so he's more conscious of it, and he understands what needs to be done. This is a test you're going to have to withstand in any case. Whether you contribute actively or passively, it doesn't matter. We're going to go through it, and we're going to emerge victorious on the other side. But Esther is like the more, call it, in the world consciousness. where she's not sure. What am I supposed to do? How did I get here? Why am I in this position? So in a certain sense,
Lucky for her, she's with Mordechai.
so the idea is that we're all with a Mordechai. The Mordechai is like the tzaddik in a person's life. So either it's he himself, or hopefully he has a tzaddik. He has somebody that he goes to, and one of the things that I find to be the biggest thing that plagues me is a feeling of imminent destruction of the world. It's always facing me, as it were. Somehow everything's going to go to bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think that too.
And a lot of people think that. I think that a lot of people that grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s during the Cold War have a sense that somehow somebody's going to hit a button and the world's going to go to pieces. So
I remember that.
okay, so and
The Dr. Strangelove.
they all these crazy, exercises in school. They had to get under the desk
Kiss your tush
because
goodbye.
because
Put your head between your legs, kiss
yeah.
your tush goodbye.
because if there's going to be an atomic war, of course that's going to save you because you're going to be under a desk.
Right.
Or something. So anyway,
With our hands over our
That's cool.
back of our head.
yeah, that's
You
going to save you.
remember that?
Come on.
You remember that, Bobby?
So that instilled in
Remember doing
people got children that grow up like that. So they get the feeling that the world's destruction is imminent. It's right around the corner.
Right.
And even if it looks like there's no more Cold War, there's no more anybody with the finger on the button, still that accompanies you, continues to accompany. And then you get the sense that the world is always about to fall apart. So I think almost everybody who lived through those decades came out with that feeling somewhere. Some people have it more pronounced, some people have it less. It's like it's a group trauma, call it whatever. It's not exactly a trauma because we didn't go through anything, but it's sort of like a state of mind that people have.
So that influences the test they create for themselves?
No, so what I'm saying is that the tzaddik is somebody who helps you withstand this test. This is a test that was created for everybody there. Is this feeling that things are always about to fall apart. And you need a tzaddik to help you through that, to understand that the world is not going to fall apart. We saw that thing, the effect of such a thing in last week's parsha, in Noach, last week's. In Noach, the fact that after the flood they build the Tower of Babylon, that's part of the same type of feeling. That every so often the sky falls, so we have to get ready for it, and eventually, opinions change, people change. It's a different generation; they don't remember it anymore, and it's over, and nobody. So they find a new one, of course. So what's the new one? We our age, we don't care.
Iran.
No, Iran is. Oh, that's another one, but that's very local to Israel. The new one in the world is of course climate change.
Oh, yeah.
So this also is a concocted thing. To us, the age that we're at, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's a little bit warmer.
Some people really frightened by it, perhaps? I would
People are
imagine.
living in fear now, but not us because we're too old to be affected by it that way. We don't see it as something that's real. For us, it's manufactured fear. I remember there was a line that for me it changed the way I looked at the Cold War. About 1985, there was a movie called St. Elmo's Fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a statement, one of the characters there, who's a writer, he says, fear of Russia is an imagined fear. It doesn't really exist, but it makes Americans feel better because they go to sleep at night knowing somebody's protecting them from the demon or whatever, something like that.
That's very true.
So in a certain sense, it turned out to be entirely true. And if you see enough of these during your life, they're sort of like, I guess somebody at some point said, the things that you really got to worry about, you'll never see coming. The things that are really going to affect your life are not going to tell you about their existence 20 years ahead of time. They're going to hit you suddenly one morning when you're not waiting for it at all. and you can't even begin to think what it'll be. So stop worrying, because there's nothing to worry about. If it comes, it comes. Whatever this thing is, you'll deal with it. But to worry all the time about how things are going to go and fall apart, that's an imagined fear. So why do people fear this way? Because you could say that fear is the opposite of confidence. It removes the responsibility of forging a path through life, because you're constantly worried that if I do anything, it'll fall apart.
However, aren't the people who are proclaiming this actually trying to do something about it?
Oh, they're definitely,
Those people.
for
So how does
them,
that work as the opposite of confidence? They seem to be pushing forward whatever it is that they're doing. I don't know.
a lot of times people don't look at the it could be a combination of a few things, but I'm imagining that the scientists who have this theory about climate change, for them, that's their line. That's what they're producing in life.
Okay.
So they're not affected by the fear factor in it,
But it's interesting
because they're doing it.
This girl from Schweden.
Right.
who
The
is
girl with the
doing all
Asperger's.
that. If you parents don't do it,
Good.
then
What
we're
is
gonna
this
take
on the-
Because of this, so listen to this amazing thing. I heard about it just on last week. So there's a new N-word. There's an N-word in America, but there's a new N-word, and it starts with B. And you wouldn't imagine that what this word would become. The worst word, right? The word that you can't say, but people say it. It's boomer. What does that mean? So
I remember the video.
it became it became popularized because of some member of parliament in New Zealand who's like 26 years old, and this elder statesman was talking.
She says, "You boomer."
And she goes like to, brush him off. Okay, boomer. It's like a boomer is an N. He's an N word. It's like you don't understand anything. So this is classic Goyish culture, that the previous generation doesn't understand anything. That's the classic. We've talked about this. The classic tension in non-Jewish culture is between generations. In Jewish culture, the classic tension is within, it's intra-generation, it's inside the generation itself.
Beginning with the Torah. What's our model is Avram Avinu. I mean, don't get older than that.
Right, no. Jews don't have a problem with the previous generations. The tension is always within the generation. What is the right thing to do? On the contrary, when somebody older comes into the room, everybody feels, okay, the voice of wisdom has come. There's not that feeling of ridiculing the past generation, certainly not the Oedipal complex, which is how do I kill the previous generation? How do I get rid of it? Because it's just bothering me. But this boomer thing, that's exactly what it means. A boomer is somebody who was born from 1945 to 1960, and they're the elder generation running the world right now. And so these young people are feeling like, you guys don't understand anything, which is simply not true. The young people are being, their minds have been hijacked by a series of fears that don't exist either. And they're like, they think that somehow, the previous generation doesn't get it. The previous generation created that fear. That's why they understand that it's not something you need to fear. But we, as people who were born after the conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States started in 1945, so our feeling is that there was a lot to fear from the Soviet Union. But the people who created the conflict, they probably weren't so afraid. They didn't live in fear of it. They understood, okay. Where did this fear come to a climax? It's very interesting.
They had pigs.
Yeah. Certainly, that was the...
I remember.
And when that burst and nothing happened,
When was that?
I was in camp.
1963,
I was in camp, and I remember we all sat.
Everybody
together
was
thinking
sure
that the world
this was the
gonna
end of the
come.
world.
Right.
Everybody was certain of it. So you come to this climax, and wow, nothing
Were
happened.
you born?
No, I wasn't born, but I've read and seen
Yeah.
enough about it.
I
But
lived
that was a defining moment in that generation freeing itself from the fear of the Soviet Union. And when that became possible, so Reagan could bring down the Iron Curtain. Reagan did it Same way that Trump is bringing China down now. Reagan did that to the Soviet Union back in the 80s.
Nice.
And he did it by not fearing retaliation. He realized
Yeah.
it's a paper tiger, like he used to call China. There's nothing behind this threat. It doesn't really exist. But he also knew that because he was old enough. But he had enough backing from the rest
Well,
of the...
so is Trump, I mean.
Right, Trump is also, he's old enough to know that China's not a real threat. It's something you need to deal with. Okay, it's another problem on my list of issues that... So again, going back to confidence,
So bringing that individually though, so then there are certain things that you should take as a threat and certain things you shouldn't?
the
What
threats
should you take
will
as a
appear,
threat, as an
not as
individual?
threats, but as actual problems. They will appear one day. There
Right.
are issues that you have to take care of.
And the response to that is not confidence or is yes confidence?
It's very confidence.
Very only confidence.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get through it. But it's not, you don't build
So
up
then
to
it's
it.
not when you use trust, actually, right?
No,
When
you
it's a real
use
threat.
trust also, but the trust is, first of all, that I am here in this world to do something, and these fears that can envelop me need to fall apart. They're not part of my whole, not part of my path. That's sort of the chapter in Tehillim that we say on Motzei Shabbos, chapter 91. It's called Shir Shel Pgaim, the song of, I would say, did you say Pgaim? Of things that would hurt you. And the main thing is that everything's deflected. Yeah, you're right, there's a ton of stuff that's trying to hurt you. But when you follow a path, when you're on the line, when you're pushing into your life, so these things fall to the sides. That's how it works. If you're not going to pursue a path, so you're right, everything in the world is gonna hit you. It's one of the things that also behind never ever going into what do you call it? When a person finishes working at 65, what's it called? Retirement. Never ever retiring. The Rebbe was very adamant about this. Retirement is a death sentence. How can a person stop? If you come to the space where you can't move anymore, instead of you're in bed, okay, now we have solutions for people even in bed.
No, it should be
They can
new.
still do things. But you have to keep moving. It doesn't matter what position you're in. It doesn't matter what age you're at. You should continue moving, because the moment you stop moving, you're not alive anymore. Life means having confidence that I can affect the world. And all these fears and worries and things that people dedicate themselves to, they're just they're a way to draw you away from your main mission. You should be treated that way. That they're like trying to confuse me.
So it's all Yetzer Hara, in fact.
It's a type of Yetzer Hara. It's a type of evil inclination. What? There's going to be massive flooding? Okay, we'll solve the massive flooding when there is. It's not going to happen overnight, I promise you. And if it actually happens, and we'll see that it's actually happening, we'll find the solution. In the same way that, what was it now, 20 years ago, they suddenly saw a hole in the ozone. Nobody knows if these holes happen naturally, non-naturally, nobody knows. But there was an argument that it's caused by CFCs. Okay, so within 2 years there were no more CFCs than anything. And then the hole closed up. As it turns out, there's still a hole. Because apparently there's a natural process to the whole thing that we're not fully aware of. But again, these things don't matter. The things that you have to deal with in life, you can deal with if you're pushing forward. If you have a line of confidence, you have a line of trust. You have a credit line if you want. And that's what you're pursuing in your life. Then the things that are trying to vie for your attention and steer you off your path, they'll fall to the sides. But it's only if you're moving forward. But like we said, there's a point where you have to start. Sometimes you have to start a whole new direction that you've never taken before. That point is called absolute trust, when you start a new line. And to a certain degree, there's not much you can do at that first moment. What you do in that first moment is you concentrate, as we'll see, on 3, call them foundation points of what life is about why I'm here to be able to create a trajectory for myself, why my goal in life is to move forward. Okay, so let's see this. Absolute trust, on line 357, which resides in the first point of the line or ray of infinite light, after it emerges from the infinite light represented by the circle that we saw, called the light that surrounds all worlds, is alluded to in the verse, all that is alive possesses confidence. To be alive means to have confidence. If you don't have confidence, you're not alive. You can be physically alive, but you're not alive.
Haftarah. It's the Haftarah.
What do you mean?
That's how Chassidus explains the story of Elisha and the oil.
Right, this
Just
week's
do, start doing.
right. That, by the way, is one of the examples of active confidence.
Really?
One of the most powerful examples of active confidence. Elisha is Elisha the prophet. He's the example in the prophets of somebody who had active confidence.
He also demanded more miracles than Eliyahu.
Right, twice as much.
Twice as much.
And Eliyahu's miracles, to a certain extent, were still passive. But Elisha's were already completely
Is
active.
that why it has to come back, Eliyahu?
Maybe. No, he's active, but he's not, relative to Elisha, he's feminine. That's why we always say that Eliyahu is a feminine example of divine spirit. He's not a masculine example. Because the person sort of sits back and he's taught. He hears words that teach him something new in Torah that he could not arrive at by himself. He doesn't help you learn. He tells you. It's sort of like a cheat sheet. That's passive confidence. That means that I don't have the capability. Hashem will take care of it. So if a person's trajectory in life, his mission in life is to learn Torah, is to advance Torah, so when Eliyahu reveals himself to him, that's like being in a passive state. What is the masculine state? The masculine state is like Chassidus, that explains that if you uncover your own soul root, it's infinitely higher than anything Eliyahu can tell you. Because there it comes from your own toil, your own confidence that you're able to develop Torah yourself. Okay. So by definition, to be alive in the psyche means that a person has confidence. The description, all that is alive, Kol HaChaim, refers to the light that fills all worlds. Everything that has a life force in it, that's what we mean by being alive. Again, you can be alive in the physical sense and yet not be alive in the spiritual sense, in the psychological sense. Unfortunately, we know what that looks like. That's when a person is, Chas v'shalom, he's paralyzed or as a vegetable, in a coma, whatever it is. So he's alive, but there's no trajectory. It's not going anywhere. He's completely just alive, but not without any life force that they can feel. And when you feel your life force, that pushes you forward. That's one of the main things. To have faith is to remove myself from the picture. Not to feel my life force. To feel myself engulfed within the infinite nature of God. To have confidence, my focus has to shift from the light that surrounds all worlds, that means nullifying myself, to the light that fills all worlds, which is the opposite. It's a feeling that He is who gives you strength to do good. To feel the life force permeating through me. That's what confidence is. So the meditation is completely focus of the consciousness is in a different place. When I want to have faith, the focus is outside of me. When I want to have confidence, the focus is the life flowing through me. The more I feel, the more I'm excited by the life force in me, my thoughts, my feelings, the more it's called having confidence. The more the confidence is awakened, the more I want to chart a path. So this refers, all that is alive here, that has confidence, that possesses confidence, this inner life, refers to the light that fills all worlds. The infinite light, it's the same infinite light, but now it's as it permeates and integrates into our reality. And permeates and integrates means that I can feel it. The God I can't feel, I can't sense God. So by definition, focusing on faith is losing a sense of feeling. Except that what you then understand is godliness.
So if like you're afraid and you know that you have to choose fear or faith, you don't want to feel fear because it feels awful.
Right.
So then you choose
choose
faith,
faith.
and then you don't feel.
So what you just said is very, very important. It means that what's around you, if it's not faith, it's going to be fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just said that these things that are attacking you from all sides, that's the fear. And it's coming from outside of you. It's trying to direct you. It's like, this fear of the Soviet Union, fear of climate change, whatever it is. UFOs, people have some fears of that. I told you once I have fears of UFOs. So where did that come from? It came from, in a certain sense, somebody tries to even, people get off on this, on instilling fears in society. They love it. There's people who this is what they love.
Do they know they're doing it? You mean
I think
plainly?
Not only do they know, I think they get a rush from it.
Certainly very
Because they feel that they have control over you.
Very powerful.
There's I don't want to mention any names. Nir Manusi told me about a very popular writer in Israel. He's frum, and he's completely engrossed in horror, in the worst type of horror stuff. He like lives on it. So how could a person who's writing about Reb Nachman, even the Alter Rebbe, how could he be there? So the only thing I can think of, I mean, I probably can think of other things, is that it's a way for him to deal with his fears. He's got other fears that are attacking him from all sides, and he doesn't know about faith. He just doesn't know about faith. He doesn't know how to push it aside. He hasn't been able to. So it's sort of like giving it here it is, it's in this movie, it's in this reality, and sort of like trying to hold on to, sort of contain it in some way, maybe. But it's a terrible thing to have to use these, and let's say that there is no reason, he's just engrossed in it because he lost himself when he was younger, he can't get out of it, so now he's living in the life of fear. There's no way to just have confidence in Hashem. So it's too much of a quick analysis. It could be that it's much more deeply rooted, and I'm not getting it. But there are people who enjoy creating this fear. Scientists who created climate change, I don't think they enjoyed it. I think it was just simply a result of their research that they came up with this idea. Why did they think that the world needs to go to, has to burn up or whatever? That's a different question. But I believe then that the data that they found could be interpreted this way. I don't think it's completely crazy. But to churn it into some kind of issue, a global issue, and around this everybody's, that's already a psychosis. It's not normal. It's not how you do things.
It's probably Al Gore who did it for political reasons.
Right. He definitely did it for political reasons. No question. When he ran for president, he's a nice guy. He's really funny. he starts his movie. I don't remember what it was called, but he started his movie. Hi, my name is Al Gore, and I used to be the next president of the United States. He's a funny guy. I know somebody wrote that for him, but he delivers it very nicely. So,
He's right, it's necessary.
so he really made it into, I'm going to run on this. And it's interesting that he's young enough to be able to even believe it. But Hillary never made a deal out of it because she's too old to believe it. She can't deliver the lines. It's just not going to work because I don't feel it. I don't know what you're talking about. We had the worst winter in how many years, and you're telling me there was climate change. Anyway,
No, you do have this feel also in the scriptures talking about in the future days, like it's going to be very.
Those are all metaphors. Those are all metaphors.
Yeah, I know.
On the contrary, the sun is a healing, and as much as it's hot, it's also the source of healing. And certainly, we don't think that sitting and basking in the sun is a source of health. So they're all metaphors, and they have to be understood. Yeah, weather is one of those things that is up there with physics. As one of we can really tell what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen after 3 days. So, imagine that you would send a spaceship into space and you wouldn't know where it was after 3 days. Guys dealing with weather are not exactly known for their predictions. Okay, anyway. So the description, all that is alive, refers to the light that fills all worlds, the infinite light as it permeates and integrates into our reality, affording life force to all creatures. So when we feel our life force, that's the source of our ability to have confidence in the direction that we need to take in life. If a person's not feeling Hashem giving him life force, he can't have confidence. That has to be the focus of the meditation. The first place that light that fills all worlds enters is called the inner dimension of primordial man, of Adam Kadmon. Okay? So it has a name in Kabbalah. The beginning of this line, the inception point, is called the inner aspect of Adam Kadmon. Why? Because Adam Kadmon, primordial man, in Kabbalah stands for the God's plan for reality, which is captured in his image and his likeness, which is like man. That's why it's called primordial man. It's like Hashem has a plan. He also has confidence. He has a tremendous amount, except that he took his confidence and he did the opposite from us. What did he do? He turned it into faith. By creating man, he separated, as it were, his confidence out from him and gave it to us. And what did he retain? He retained the faith. What's his faith?
In us.
That we'll work it out right.
We're rich, yeah.
We'll do it the right way eventually. We're going to reach the goal. And when we say we have faith in Hashem, we mean that whatever Hashem does, it's for the good.
Can you just explain that one more time? That he
From
took
our
the
point of view,
confidence out of him.
Right.
That means it was only confidence, and it split to faith and confidence at that
no,
point.
he had everything.
Okay.
And he bequeathed the confidence to us.
He couldn't divide the confidence, keep it, and
He also has
He
a
gave
God.
us the
Obviously has a
right.
but,
Okay,
but
but
the
it
point is that a human
gave us
being
the confidence,
is an
he kept the
expression of
faith.
God's
Okay,
confidence.
Thank you.
We also have faith. But what does faith mean? Faith means we talked also about faith in myself, which is a product of always having faith in something else. So we talked about it, that there are two general types of faith. Faith in God and faith in another Jew. Faith in the fact that every soul is a part of God. So that we talked about. We said that vicariously leads to faith in yourself. Faith in yourself sort of says, in the end it'll work out. I don't know how, I don't know what, but in the end, everybody does what they're supposed to do. Okay. What does faith in God mean? From my point of view, what are faith and confidence? Faith is faith in God. Confidence is confidence in myself. Because God is giving me the confidence. He's given it to me. He's giving me the power of confidence. From Hashem's point of view, from God's point of view, it's exactly reversed. His faith is in us. Yeah. Right. What does it mean that he has faith in us?
He knows we can do it.
However they figure it out, I'm with them. I'm not going to try to influence it in a certain direction. That's what free will means. That he's left it up to us to tell him how we want the world to work. That's what it means that he didn't finish the world in 6 days. That he left it, Asher bara Elokim la'asot. That he left something for us to do. When you say you're leaving something for somebody to do, to finish, what you're saying is I have faith in you that you can do it right. But don't do it the way, I'm not telling you to do it the way I would do it, although I hope you think about how I would do it. I want you to do it yourself. I want you to figure it out yourself. I want you to be my partner. So when Hashem created the world only to a certain point and then left the rest to us, he has faith in us. That's how Reb Nachman even describes it literally. That to create the world the way that he did, Hashem had to have faith in people. He certainly has confidence in himself. Good? Because he took it to a certain point. And he can also take over again. But that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to leave the rest of the line to be built by us. The end of the line has to be built by us. And we have to decide, like he told Avram, walk before me and be sincere and be whole. Become whole by walking before me, by finishing it for me, by telling me what you want it to look like in the end. That's our responsibility.
Oh, that's why Mark was walking with him.
Right.
And Avram before him.
Right.
Oh,
Because all Noach could do was just
to be told.
try to be okay with what God wants, but couldn't think the next step further out and figure out what it should look like at the end. Again, it's a stage of development. We're not coming to Noach with a list of faults. We're telling him, you're very good for whatever's before Torah, before Yiddishkeit. And conserve reality.
But he
Keep
built
it.
the plow, that's not so conservative.
Oh, so when did he build it?
I know this only from Europe.
Right. So when did he build it? This I only figured out this year. I was always under the
After,
impression.
did he build it after?
I was always
also
under the
learned that
impression
this
that he
year.
built it before the flood, but I learned this year in the Medrash very clearly that it's after the flood. And it was needed only after the flood, because before the flood there was no problem.
I must have just realized
There
it was
wouldn't
here.
work.
There was no problem before the flood
said
because
the
they
earth-
didn't. The
and-
earth was very fertile. The flood made the three hands like
Made it hard, the ground.
right, made the first foot of ground very hard. It was impossible to break through it. Probably there was some kind of acidity. I don't know what there was.
Lemon.
So he created the plow after the flood, and that was part of his already moving in the direction of Avram. But
Well,
that has
right,
to be,
there has to be a
there has to be some
transition.
kind of transition.
So is Avram faith until the bris milah and then becomes confidence?
It seems that Avram, from the very beginning, he has a trajectory,
Right.
even though it comes from Hashem. But you see right away,
When he
and
decides about the
that's
idols,
exactly
yeah.
what Rav
Okay.
Ginsburg talked about last night.
Right.
That El haaretz asher ar'eka. First, you can take it in many different ways. This verse, in which I will. It could be the literal meaning is to the land that I will show you.
Okay.
What do you mean that that God will show him? How is he going to show it to him?
Keep walking.
And what? And there's going to be
A billboard.
a billboard. This is the land. People walk around like that. Build your house here. Okay, fine.
If you lived
Build
here,
it
you'd
here.
be,
That could be it. Asher ar'eka, Rashi also says that I will, and the Medrash says that I will show you there. I'll make you into, I'll publicize you, I'll publicize your name.
Eka also could be or becha.
Yeah.
You're right.
Maybe. So there's certainly a possibility that Avram knew this was the place, because this was a place that was allowing him to express himself. That he could come out in this place, as opposed to somewhere else where his nature could not be known. So there's always in the background of Avram's being commanded a feeling, lech lecha, that you, for yourself, that it's about him, it's not about Hashem's command. And obviously this is the big difference. I mean, it has to be this way because the big difference between Torah before the Torah was given and Torah after the Torah was given was whether it's a command or not. So we have a state, we have a very confusing state right now. We're in the transition. It says that we're in the final years, the Rebbe wanted to make a big deal out of it. So we're in the final stage of being able to treat Torah as a command. We can still benefit from God commanding us to do the commandments. You can feel commanded. You can
At
feel,
one moment we will not feel the
When
commandment.
Right.
Mashiach comes.
like a lot of people don't. A lot of people already don't.
Yeah, already know that's true.
So,
Does it mean that they don't do mitzvot? No, they
No.
do. It's very interesting. They still do it because they want to.
Mm.
It's a very strange thing. The authority of Torah has fallen apart. Even for people who are frum, the authority has fallen apart. Unless you're a Lubavitcher, I think, or you're mamish, a very staunch Litvish thinker, the authority is almost gone. And people remain frum for their own reasons. It's not out of fear. It's not out of hope for, the Holocaust got rid of any fragment of a thought that somehow keeping Torah is going to keep you safe. Nobody believes that. It's gone. People, didn't matter how frum they were or how fry they
So it
were.
feels good to
Everybody
them?
went to
It
the same
feels
gas
right?
chamber. There's no difference. What?
It feels good to them, it feels right, they're comfortable with it. What is the pull or?
Okay, because it's natural.
And that's what
And they talk about this all the time.
That's
There's
a
a lot of
shift
people.
state.
Yes.
It's
It's
going
natural, they
back
talk
to
about.
the state of the patriarchs.
Oh, yeah.
The patriarchs were in a natural state of keeping mitzvot. They
I
kept
mean,
everything.
isn't that really what Hashem wants, actually?
No, there's different stages.
Well,
There's nothing to
For
say
now,
that.
maybe.
There's nothing to say that it won't shift back.
This is not what you said the Rebbe wants you to make a big deal of.
The Rebbe wanted to make a big deal out of the fact that we're still in a state where at least there is authority. It's just a question whether you're willing to feel it or not. If you're not willing to feel it, you're already lost. You can't use it anymore.
But is
Is
that
it-
sustainable, that other type?
Yes,
That it
why not?
feels
On the
good.
contrary, it's
Then
not just
some-
that it feels good; it's right.
It's
I mean, you look at all the self-help that's coming out today. What's the first thing they tell you? You have to have a routine.
yeah.
You have to have a routine. Like a Jew looks at this,
They have phone
and
tasks
it's like,
also.
why did you guys just figure this out?
Right.
We've been having a routine for 3,000 years. Every
Quite
single one of us
rigidly.
for the past 3,000 years has done exactly the same things when we wake up all the way to the time when we go to sleep. We've never had a problem with a routine. We know you need a routine. No. We did the routine because it was part of what we were commanded to do. They're saying it now because they see that a person doesn't function well when they don't have a routine. They see that a person needs it, so that's what it means that it's natural. So by Avram,
Discover it.
right, they've discovered that the Torah, but to say that the Torah is,
Discover the Torah.
so they're discovering the Torah, but they're discovering from within the world,
Right.
not from the authority that comes from God commanding it from outside the world. But it comes in the end to the end, to the same result, theoretically. It's supposed to come to the same result. Because Avraham, who was the most natural person in the world, so he figured it out all the way to Uvei Tavshilim. That he even understood what you do on Yom Tov, that Shabbos before Yom Tov before Shabbos. Even that he knew when Yom Tov is on Friday. Even that much he knew that there were certain laws that they have to do. What Yom Tov are you talking about? Sukkos is natural. Pesach is natural. It's natural. The fact that it also has an aspect to it that is commanded is on top of the natural aspect of what this holiday is. Every one of our holidays is natural. The fact that you light candles on Hanukkah, you don't need Hanukkah to know that you light candles in the winter. You don't have to be a big genius for that. It says that Adam Arishon, the first man, he lit candles. Why did he light candles? He lit candles to celebrate the fact that the days were getting longer again. So for him it was completely natural. For us, the natural part of it has been enclosed within a historical event. But the way that we build the halachos, the laws of it, is still very much connected to how the natural aspect of it works. In any case, so Avraham did everything naturally. What does it mean to do it naturally? To understand that you live in Eretz Yisrael, not because you're commanded to, but because this is where I'm me. If I live anywhere else, I don't feel that I'm me. Some people feel that. Some people feel that if I don't live in Peru, I'm not me. So what would we say to them? Machadar Eretz Yisrael. So if your Eretz Yisrael is in Peru, you have to bring Eretz Yisrael to Peru. If that's what you feel there, you're the only one who knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to bring Eretz Yisrael to Peru. But a person who feels that that's where their Yiddishkeit,
Because they must have a shlichut there.
okay, because that's where the
Yeah,
shlichus
right.
is. So they will figure out how to make that the land of Israel. Is there no land of Israel physically? Yes, there is. But it's like in the same way that you would say, everybody has learned Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah. Does that mean there's no Moshe Rabbeinu? No, there was a Moshe Rabbeinu. And everybody received from that person who lived 3,300 years ago. There was such a person. But we don't live because of that person. We don't say, if Moshe Rabbeinu is not going to come here right now and teach me what this verse means, I'm not going to learn Torah because he's the only one who knows what it means. No, I know, I can learn myself. We all eat from him. We all drink from him. But he doesn't have to be here. Same thing is true of Eretz Yisrael. If you're talking about what environment is going to make you into who you are, so Eretz Yisrael could be anywhere. Every place that you find Eretz Yisrael, like Rav Nachman said, it's coming from the original Eretz Yisrael. It's an extension of Eretz Yisrael. Okay? So this primordial man, the inner aspect of primordial man, is a symbol for God's plan for reality. The inner aspect of it, as we'll see now, is what starts the line, is what starts each one of our lines. It's a point of inception, the dimensionless point from where everything is going to start. What time is it? 1:30? 1:32. So and
That's what you
is Effie coming on time? He didn't message you or anything.
I don't know if he's coming on time. He doesn't tell me that.
Okay, let's finish now. And next week we'll do the three aspects of this primordial man again. They're called the Yachid Echad Kadmon. There are three aspects, 3 points. I'll just remind you what they are in short. I didn't have time to write them down.
They're not these?
They're on
Second page?
382. I didn't have time to even write them. So the one thing is that it has to be new. That I'm here to create something new. I'm not here to just repeat what was done until now. That's one thing. That, again, these
That's
are
a
motivations for why I can start a new trajectory, why I can start a new line. It's a point of inception is like the motivations behind it. So one of them is that I'm like Joseph. I can't rely on anything that was already done. Meaning, I can't have hope. I have to create trust. That's what it's called. The hope is the extension of the line. The trust is the absolute trust is the first inceptual point. So I can't use ready-made vessels. The second one is that when I came into this world, it was all with the promise that God made me that things would be good. I have to remember that I have a promise that it will be good. So to try to create
What's
something.
the source of that? What's the
So
source?
that we'll say
Okay.
next week.
Okay.
And the final one is that before God even created the world, He consulted with my soul, and I said, create it. Because again, what does the world mean? It's where my soul is going to have to find a trajectory. It's going to have to create a life.
It's like
That's the third one that Hashem consults?
That's the highest. These are all motivations for why I will now start a new line of infinite light, a new trajectory in life.
So we want to start new lines?
Yeah.
How often?
Well, if you need to.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time, you just extend the line that you have already. Most of the time, you're just extending what you've already done. But sometimes, either as a collective or as individuals, there's a point where you have to start something new.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do more of that next time again. We called that, if you remember, the stake that holds the tent. These three things, they have an image in the prophets. The prophet says, I'll make you into a stake that's stuck into a very faithful place. The stake is the confidence. It's starting a new line, and it comes out of the faith. Okay.
Yeah.